Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Gnostic Studies. And today we'd like to do our second class on Gnostic Astrology. As always, before we jump into today's material, we're going to do a review of the previous material, what we covered last week. So we'll put a link to that webpage if you want to follow along in the comments area. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments area. So in the previous class, we did our introduction. We read from, we read from Huiracocha's Zodiacal course, some introductory material. And he mentioned a lot of things, but we tried to summarize it in the document that's available at the bottom of that page, the PDF that we have here on the screen. He recommended some daily practices. He said the objective of the present course is to acquaint you with a group of natural laws and with their corresponding secrets for the development of these three bodies: the physical, the vital or etheric, and the astral. And he said, thus, we beg you to conceive in your mind of the hidden foundation that connects these five words: light, love, life, knowledge, and triumph, which start the study of the present introductory lesson, because he mentioned them at the beginning. And then he gave the daily disciplines of the personal hygiene and the sign of the cross. We said there is a Gnostic sign of the cross. If you're interested in that, then you can leave a comment in the comments area that says that, and we can send you a link to that information. Then we had the personal consecration prayers, consecration to the Master, and prayer to the Solar Logos. Those are on this page. We reviewed them in the at the end of the class. And then the last was a relaxation exercise of the light, and zodiacal exercise, as well as retrospective exercise. So we're going to talk about the retrospective exercise today and the zodiacal exercise. Exercise of the light is 2 parts. We gave you the full version in the previous class. Here we have some abridged versions. We have invocation to the light and then the affirmation of the light. Affirmation of the light is again an abridged version of the practice of the light, which is a visualization practice. And we recommend that you look at the original. But this is here. That way it has the finer points. And one of the things that it mentioned was that people say that they don't have time to do the practices. And he said that if we could spend the time, if we could change ourselves so that we don't spend the time criticizing, blaming, and condemning people, conditions, and things, and that we wish to be different from what we are, then we can change ourselves. And so these are the practices that he recommends. And there you have it. There's the handout. You can print it out, have it on a piece of paper, have it with you when you go and do your practices. And we recommend, as he does, to do them regularly. He recommends doing them daily. So this handout is the daily, recommended daily practices. So that's what we got there. And now we want to jump into the material for today. Let's jump into today's material.
disciple, you've spent years studying the Rose Cross magazine and have probably been in correspondence with me, and so there has been enough time in order for you to form your own concepts and a clear judgment of what our philosophy is, which we have always said is practice in distinguished degrees. Similarly, if you know our practices, then observe that sometimes we repeat our law is light, love, life, liberty, and triumph. Just meditate for an instant upon the meaning of these 5 words so as to deduce that everything that we could ever want is contained within them. But if I give you a course, if I put you at the beginning of a practical and straight path, it will not be possible to start at the highest point without the word that is at the center and which makes us swing into balance, life. Then we will go to love and finally to light. In the beginning, life brought about the genesis of matter. Life was created from itself. Life is the light that blooms from the same vital fire that separates itself into its particles. But as these particles were already light in their formation and life at the same time, and since they had their origin in the first cause, then as a consequence, the light in itself is God. Nonetheless, let's cut out this preamble to enter into the real practice. Our life, we know, is not just that we are a superior animal whose sole purpose is to eat, to travel through the world, to mechanically procreate, and to operate businesses for our welfare. You have to think further. You must realize that we are angels, that we are shackled gods, subjects in the bottom of a cloister, and that the purpose of our life is to liberate ourselves, to free ourselves from those bonds, and to awaken within ourselves all the potential that we have enclosed within. Archimedes said, "Give me a point of support and I will move the world." Well, then, this point of support is what I can offer you, good disciple, if we can agree on our assessments. For example, if for you a thing is blue while I see it as green, then it will not be possible for us to agree if we are trading goods. But if we start from the same point of view, recognizing that everything we are doing is infinitely more serious than comparing goods, then we can begin. Look, each machine has its lever, its rudder, from where it is managed. And our organism, which is a really complicated machine, also has its own lever. Here is the point of Archimedes where we can support ourselves. Then, if we are a duality of soul and body, and if it is precisely in the soul where our conduct resides, then we need to find the point of contact between them, and this is only found in the grand sympathetic nervous system. The fluidic body, we could say, lives in the subconscious, and the conscious vital part is only its reflection. The subconsciousness is a kind of lens through which the human being can see their deeds that, in general, escape from their consciousness. That is to say, the fluidic body does not have willpower. On the contrary, it reacts upon all the impressions that are sufficiently strong, and they can either be started by ourselves or by someone else's suggestion, or even by self-suggestion. We have a kind of mechanical willpower, and we also have a conscious willpower. The first we call the subconscious willpower, and we seek to establish a bridge where the two connect. Two very strong manifestations that are like two great columns in our lives are hunger and sexual desire. These are factors which end up governing the elemental human being. The desire to nourish oneself and to cohabitate reside in every atom, because cohesion and sustenance are nothing but the result of hunger and love. What is our life in itself? This has not yet been defined. One could say that our personal life is a constituent part of the universal life, and that this manifests itself through light and heat, although at first this is only perceived as a light that flows from a spiritual sun. From that light or spiritual sun, everything, the entire creation, is made. When we eat, we create new particles in our blood and in our tissues, and when We cohabitate, we convert ourselves into creators, even when this creation is not conscious because we are drawn by desire. Nonetheless, we suspect that behind those desires or impulses, there are divine forces. We therefore need everything to become conscious. That is to say, if everything that is in us is either unconscious or subconscious, then if our personal lives in our subconscious form a part of the cosmic life and the cosmic subconsciousness, then our consciousness is also a part of the cosmic consciousness, which is the spiritual light and, consequently, perfectly conscious. There is a law that says only the same or similar will comprehend. This is the reason why the material part of our brain can never comprehend spiritual things. For this, the disciple needs to know themselves and sense their spirit. That is to say, they need to sense themselves living in a body and not as the body itself. First of all, the sincere devotee should reveal to themselves all their defects without lies and with true honesty. Here's the first practice as well: to occupy oneself every night for at least 5 minutes with one's own defects, thinking of them and making the most fervent promise to amend them. There is a judge within ourselves, but we do not hear its voice. We are deaf and do not hear the excitement of our own nerves. We need to begin by sitting comfortably with the eyes fixed on a specific point, without making a single movement or blinking, in order to achieve a complete relaxation of our muscles. To achieve this, even if it is just for a few minutes, we should transform ourselves into this point itself, which is complete peace and tranquility. This is the first step in order to get to samadhi, or sleep, which is provoked by the initiate, through which one reaches in 5 minutes superior forces which are greater than 10 hours of regular sleep. With this practice, we also get charged with strength and power, but it is necessary that in our own subconsciousness we carry this intention, however slight, to fill ourselves with spiritual light. Then immediately we should go to the opposite pole, that is to say, to educate and dominate our willpower, suggesting to ourselves the idea, I am, I wish, will, yo soy, yo quiero. The great all, the cosmos, is a perennial rhythm and breathes in a special rhythm. Let us therefore breathe deep 7 times, always thinking of the penetration of the air through the nose, and that entering with it is all the life, all the light, and that it is charging us as if we are an accumulator. Then, and in order for us to proceed within ourselves, we raise our hand, but not in a state of laxity, rather in a state of tension, moving the head forward 7 times, backward 7 times, 7 times to the right, 7 times to the left, rotating the neck and head 7 times to the left side, and 7 times to the right. Let's do these practices with the intention of this light first acting upon our head, upon the part of Aries, the first constellation of the zodiac, and then doing a concentration in which we bring the mind to the front of the head, thinking that there exists a giant there entirely made of light. Let's continue with the mind moving to the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the center of language, and next we concentrate intensely upon the structure of our throat. Then we direct this current to the ears. So we meditate on the 5 senses all together in the head. These practices, which correspond to Aries, must be constantly done within the 4 weeks during which you should keep them up.
Thank you. So that's the material that he gave us in the course. Below here we have the summary, the first exercise he gave in order to become conscious, he says. Is it a type of retrospective exercise? First, all the students should reveal to themselves their defects without lies and with true honesty. Here is the first practice: to occupy oneself every night for at least 5 minutes with one's own defects, thinking of them and making the most fervent promise to amend them. Okay, so what's he talking about? We review our day, right? Retrospective means to review the day. Let's look at the day and say, well, I could have spoken differently to my coworker. I could have acted differently with my family member. I could have treated the pet differently. I could have done a different job managing that. I got stressed out. I got identified. I got, happy, and I was acting silly, and I wasn't paying attention, and I got too excited, or whatever it is, or I got angry, or I got greedy, or I got lazy, whatever. We just have to look at that and then decide for ourselves, for our own development, for our own betterment, that we're going to change, that we don't want to do that in the future. The process of reviewing that, of going back over our defects, as he calls them, is so that we can begin to become more conscious of what it is that we do on a regular basis, on a daily basis, in a repetitive way, in some could say a mechanical way. So we're looking at our behavior. Okay, so let's say I start today, let's say I got angry with a coworker or something, or a fellow student, or whomever, or somebody driving in the road on the way to wherever I was going. So I realized, wow, I yelled at them, or I got upset, or I, whatever I did. So now I'm going to decide I don't want to do that anymore, and going to try and figure out why it's occurring and to change my behavior. So then the next time that happens, there's a trigger that's connected, because I'm trying to become more conscious of it, with that moment that I just used to meditate, to make a promise to not be like that. And there'll be this very slight opportunity, very, very interesting opportunity that happens where we're reminded that we don't have to choose to act in this same way again. And we can choose to act in a different way. And we need to take that opportunity. And of course, if we miss that opportunity, then it happens in a similar way. And then we review it again, and we notice it again, and then we pray again, and we work again against it until we gain enough momentum so that it doesn't happen again. He says there is a judge within ourselves, but we do not hear its voice. Right? Because we're not listening. We're deaf, and we do not hear the excitement of our own nerves. We're listening to the mind. We're listening to the ego, as it's called in Gnosis. And instead, we should be listening to hear that voice that's within. Some people call it conscience. In any case, that's the first exercise. If you guys have any questions about that, then let us know. But that's the main thing. Just review what's going on there for a little bit. Review ourselves for a little bit. Review our day. Something that jumps out at us. How could we have done better? What could we have done differently? So now the Zodiacal exercise, which I know we're a week out because it started on the 21st or 22nd, depending on who you look at. But we need to do the introduction. So we're going to do it for 3 weeks, or we have the opportunity to do it for 3 weeks, I should say. Here's a summary of the practice. Sit comfortably. Fix the eyes on a specific point without moving or blinking in order to achieve complete relaxation of our muscles. Guess what? Don't look at a screen when you do that. Just pick a point without it being on your device, on your, whatever it may be, so that you don't have to look at it. Because number one, we shouldn't need any devices. All of these classes, all the material that we're studying was before that people had handheld devices. People had maybe TVs, but that's about it. So we need to be able to do these practices regardless of the situation that we're in, regardless of the limitations we may have. So let's do it. Let's pick a point. And then you just stare at it with your eyes open. He says relaxation of the muscles is the next step. So relaxing the body, just concentrating. Transform yourself into that point, being complete peace and tranquility. So leaving everything behind, just concentrating on that point. With the body relaxed. So the pole, we could say, or the one side is complete peace and tranquility. By doing this practice, we get charged with strength and power. Obviously, we can do it a lot longer. We can do it 5 minutes. Let's start with, let's say, 30 seconds or 60 seconds, something like that. Something that that requires us to make an effort, but if we can already do that, then we increase the time. So while we're doing it, in our subconsciousness, we need to carry the intention, however slight, to fill ourselves with spiritual light. So let's go back to concentrating on the same point. We're relaxing. We're concentrating. We're not thinking about anything else except for that point. But now we're bringing into our mind, into our imagination, our visualization, to fill ourselves with light. We could say light descending and entering into our organism, coming from the cosmos. The starlight and filling us, entering into our whole organism. With the eyes open, not blinking. Okay, that's the gist of the practice. But the fourth part, the final part, we go to the opposite pole. So one is complete peace and tranquility. The other pole is to educate and dominate our willpower, because he said we have mechanical willpower and we have conscious willpower. So obviously the conscious willpower is the one we need to work on. So we need to suggest to ourselves the idea, I am, I will. So it's unclear what will I do, what the will is, but we will decide that later, but we have to activate that aspect of ourselves. And it's recommended to reflect on how we act when we're consumed by those desires, by those wants of hunger and sex, as well as the want to free ourselves from the bonds of the material world in order to awaken our hidden potential. So on the one side, we have tranquility, that peace, that calm of being in the moment, not needing anything else. And on the other side, that we're going to do something. We're going to will something. And those are the two poles. So we want to understand those two aspects. Next, we move into the zodiacal practice proper. Thank you guys for someone saying that they're trying in the comments. Yeah, thank you for trying. We're doing it too. We're trying it too. We're doing the practice now as well. So the second part of the practice is the zodiacal practice itself. It starts right here with step 5 on the screen. And of course, this information is in the notes as well. So you can always download this as a PDF. Breathe deep 7 times, imagining the air penetrating through the nose and that entering with it is all the life, all the light, charging us as if we were an accumulator. Okay, so remember, our organism is an accumulator. And we're going to inhale, and that not only is air entering, but also life and light are entering into us, charging us, filling us up, filling us with a special fuel. Okay, let's do 7 breaths, breathing in through the nose. All right, after we do those 7 breaths, we're going to raise our hand, whichever hand you want, straight up into the air, as if you're sort of reaching upwards or you're asking a question in school. Think of it as an antenna to bring the light down into the organism and specifically into the head. So now it says move 7 times forward. So when you do a nod, just go from your chin in the normal position to down towards the chest and then back up. So we'll do that 7 times. So just a nod forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now 7 times backwards. So now the nod is just backwards. So from the normal chin position, now the chin is going to go backwards, as if you're tilting your head backwards 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep that arm up. 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we're going to turn to the right, ear to the right shoulder. All right, so your ear is coming down towards your shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, ear to the left shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now rotate the neck and head 7 times to the left. Chin turns counterclockwise. 1, so you're going chin to the shoulder basically, but you're turning. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, bring the arm down. Now, we want to send the light to the gland at the front of the head, which he says there's a space between the pineal and pituitary glands. So basically, from the space above the bridge of the nose between the eyebrows, right behind that, there's sort of a canal or a tunnel that goes towards the center of the brain, right? So now we're going to visualize a light going there. We just brought the light into the head. And let's just visualize the light there. Let me start to feel a different density. Excuse me. And then from there, we're going to bring the light out to the eyes. The eyes are closed, but to clean the eyes, to heal them. Then down to the nose. Down to the mouth. And then down to the structure of the throat. Interior. Bringing the light through our whole head, face, sense organs, throat, and then back up from the throat to the ears. And then we can bring that energy back to the starting point, which was the place behind the eyebrows, the third eye, so-called third eye point, but deeper into the center of the head. Now you can do that visualization for longer. And obviously, it shouldn't be done while we're connected to the internet. It should be done while we're by ourselves or meditating, in a place so that there's not a time constraint. But that's the exercise. And the purpose is to activate the head, because Aries corresponds to the head in the human being's physical organism. Now, we'll see when we study next week's class that there's additional techniques that can be used, including a mantra, which we'll mention today, which is the vowel I, pronounced E. So we can just vocalize that, just repeat that over and over and over and over again if we want, while concentrating on the head as well. Because that sound, that vowel, is related with the pineal and pituitary glands, which reside in the head. So that's the material that we had for you today. Not necessarily as long as some of the other classes, but rich in practice, rich in esotericism. You may want to go back and reread the material or listen to it again, as always, we have a handout at the bottom with a summary of the material. But now we want to open it up for any questions and comments that you may have. And we also want to invite you to next week's class. We're going to study, this was the Rosicrucian Zodiacal course. We're going to study the Gnostic Zodiacal course next week for Aries. So we want to invite you to join us for that. Yeah, you're welcome. We got to thank you. And yeah, we appreciate you guys spending some time with us. Hopefully it's helpful. As usual, if you want to send us an email, gnosticstudies@gmail.com, if you have any questions or comments. But that's it for now. We want to thank you for, again, sharing some time with us, sharing your attention. And so with that, we're going to sign off. So wishing you the best. Until